Go Bucks, that's my team. Go Bucks, get that ring. Go.
Welcome to the NSPN.
You're listening to Sports Talk 49.
Ready?
With your host, Blake Anthony, exclusively on NSPN Champa Bay TV.
And here we go.
Get ready to strap yourself in and prepare for a ride on the soul-trained voice of Blake Anthony as he covers and breaks down the ins and outs of your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Rays, Lightning, and every other professional sports team. Because if you don't know, you better ask somebody, and that somebody is Blake Anthony.
Doesn't matter what's happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Sports Talk 49 live and always exclusively right here on NSPN. I'm Blake Anthony, and this is Sports Talk 49. And you already know this man on the right here. It's Mr. Ron Busy Butler from Agency One Sports Athlete Management Group. And Ron, how are you doing this evening?
Hey man, I'm doing great, man. Just getting ready for another weekend of football. I'm excited to be here. Obviously, anytime you can bring me on, but I'm definitely excited for this week's upcoming game this weekend, college and pro. So really looking forward to that. But other than that, man, everything is great, man. Everything is great. Looking forward to chopping it up with you a little bit.
Absolutely. So much goes on in such little time. So let's just start from the top. Buccaneers beat the Saints, break the streak. The Tom Brady-led Buccaneers have been 4-1 again. 1-4 against them. The only one victory being obviously the most important, the road to the Super Bowl. But regular season, they have been skunked up until last Sunday. What are your thoughts on that game? Well, while Ron fixes that, I'll talk about it a little bit. It was pretty ugly. They had to overcome some injuries in that game, had to make some adjustments, especially at the wide receiver position. They had to overcome some offensive line shuffling. They had to move in some O-linemen, as you guys probably already seen that Joshua Wells is gone on IR.
Can you hear me okay, Blake?
Yeah, I hear you good now. I was just talking about some of the things in the game. I wanted to think what your thoughts were on that.
Well, honestly, man, I thought they played a really good game. I love to see what the defense is doing right now. They're flying around. They're getting to the quarterback. They're making turnovers on defense. I like what I see from the defense so far on the first 2 weeks. Offensively, field goals and the touchdowns. Brady's very, I guess you could say, he kind of showed his emotions a lot, dealing with not being able to punch the ball in the end zone. But I think for, obviously, losing Mike Evans, in that game, and then not having Julio in that game, some other guys had to step up and make some plays. And I think that, you had a couple guys there that did some big things, and they were able to get that victory. I like what Leonard Fournette's doing. He's running really hard. Both games.
There's no juke.
Running hard. Yeah, he's running with a purpose, man. So just to see him doing that until they get that passing game together. And I think a lot of it has to do with the offensive line in terms of the protection. But I like what I see from them from a being able to run the ball, and looking forward to see what they're doing this week.
Absolutely. I think you hit a lot of good points there. They said they were going to emphasize and running the ball. A lot of scrutiny coming against Leonard Fournette and his weight. He obviously doesn't look out of shape. He looks very good, actually. He's not juking and jiving. He's running downhill and running you the hell over. Running you the hell over, and it doesn't matter who it is. Tyrann Mathieu was his last victim on that game. Victim of that game. I was at that game live. I was like, holy moly. That's coming into your living room.
He's running with a purpose, man. He's running with a purpose.
There's no juking. It is downhill. There's no sidestepping. It's straight over you. But you said unusual suspects had to come up in this game. Scotty Miller obviously had a couple drops. He still seems to be struggling coming out there when he gets his chances to play. Brashard Perriman was able to come away with the obviously the only touchdown on offense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And now they just added Cole Beasley to the offense. What do you think about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, with Cole, man, you got a seasoned veteran, a guy who's been doing it for a while, who's has caught over 100 balls, per season. I think he's in a position where, obviously with Tom, he likes those guys that can kind of run underneath routes and create mismatch problems for linebackers and even for some of the safeties that have to come down and be responsible for those type of Cole Beasley type guys. I'm not sure how much they're going to use him. I think he'll be elevated because I believe they signed him to the practice squad, but I believe he'll be elevated this week. They utilize him this week, or is it something that they're saying, hey, this is something for more level? They can get him acclimated to the system. He's only been there a couple of days. They can get him acclimated. Maybe he develops that trust with Brady. But then what does that do for a guy like Scotty Miller? When the rest of those guys come back, that's a big question. So I'm excited to see what happens, man. Yeah, definitely.
Scotty Miller's definitely. We thought he was on the outside looking in when it came up to cuts, and he obviously made it. They decided to move on from Tyler Johnson, who is now out there with Lovie Smith in Houston. I haven't got to see him get off yet out there. I guess he's got to get acclimated to his new team. They kept Brashard Perriman. I didn't know if he was going to make the team. A lot of those guys are injured often with their tenures here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they're getting a chance to play now. And now you add the addition of Cole Beasley and see if he gets to take some reps and some snaps from these guys. What do you think about the implosion? Well, first off, what do you think about the comments Devin White said about Jameis Winston? Do you think it was out of line, or do you think it was spot on?
I mean, listen, was he lying?
No.
I mean, I want to say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the Buccaneers were playing the Falcons, and my man DeMonte Kazee said, "Hey, listen, he's gonna throw an interception. It's just according to when he's gonna do it. So what's coming." So I think with Devin, having played with Jameis and know his history of sometimes making bad decisions, sometimes he's off, sometimes he's on, or sometimes hey, I may throw 5 touchdowns, but I may give you 3 interceptions at the same time. So
and a pick six.
It's one of those things. I think it's because he's a gunslinger, and honestly, man, sometimes you kind of have to wonder, what he's seeing out there, because a lot of times I looked at a couple of those interceptions. I want to say he had 2 to Dean.
Yep, 2 to Dean.
He had 2 to Dean, and they
one to
both
Edwards.
of them were really. Yeah, one of them. 2 of those were like really, really questionable decisions in terms of, well, why would you throw that instead of throwing this right here that's underneath? Are you forcing the ball? Are you trying to make, big plays too often? But I think Devin hit it on the head where he said, hey, we know he's going to give up the ball. We know he's going to give it up. It's just a matter of when. And when we put this pressure on him, oh, he's going to give it up. They leave him with something.
I don't know if you saw the Leonard Fournette's IG video where Chris Godwin was behind him talking to Devin White, and he asked him. He said, "What's up?" He said, "Why did you say those things about Jameis on the interview?" And Devin's like, "What'd I say?" And he was like, "Well, he's like." Then Devin pretty much is saying, "Well, he's on the other team." He's like, "What did I say?" Like, pretty much, what did he say wrong? He's trying to figure out. That's why I'm like, he really wasn't trash talking. He was saying what everybody was thinking, anyways. But it's a rivalry game. They're on the opposite teams. Jameis is going to ride with his guys. Devin's going to ride with his guys. I mean, I don't really think they're thinking about the friendship in that type of game. So I just thought that was real interesting.
Not at all. Not at all. Hey, listen, they got to see him again. They got to see him again this season. So definitely looking forward to that rematch.
Do you agree with the suspension of Mike Evans?
I I would have to go ahead and say yes. You know, I think it was a retaliation. This kind of goes back to the question of, you know, during training camp when teams have those joint practices and, you know, some type of, you know, physical altercation breaks out, you know, teams clear the bench, you got helmets thrown, all kind of stuff like that. I think that those practices aren't necessarily controlled, but when you get into a game type situation where, you know, you're retaliating based on, you know, one player from another team doing something, and, you know, now, hey, I got to step in for my quarterback, I got to step in for my running back, and I have to make some type of, I got to make my presence felt to let them know, like, we're not taking no crap. I think that I think it was warranted in terms of him retaliating and doing what he did, but I also think he sacrificed himself to say, hey, look, you know, we're going to protect our guys by all means. So I respect it. And, you know, Mike is a good guy. Everybody knows Mike is a good guy. He's not a dirty player whatsoever. And, you know, when he steps on that field, you know, he's going to give you everything you got. So I respect him. I respect, you know, his approach, but I also respect the league for saying, hey, listen, we can't allow this to happen because now it's going to become something that everybody feels comfortable doing. So I stand by the suspension.
Okay, that's a good explanation. Do you think it's a conflict?
Hey, man, everybody may not agree with me, man, but I just, you know, you have to make sure from a game standpoint, you got to remember who's watching. Okay, right. The fans. You got to remember. I lost you there. What'd you say there? What'd you say?
Oh,
there?
I said, do you think it's a conflict of interest that John Runyon was able to pass down the suspension?
A delay.
Yeah, that John Runyon was able to pass down the suspension, and Derek Brooks is actually ahead of the appeals. They did not allow him to appeal that for Mike Evans. They gave it to James Thrash. So, but I thought it was funny that John Runyon's son is starting for the Green Bay Packers, and the Bucs have to play the Packers the next week. How was one thing a conflict of interest, but not the other?
The interest not Runyon is a good guy. He can go overboard a little bit in terms of the fines, but at the same time, I think he's doing his job with, you know, issuing the fines, because he's going to go back and do the same thing that we do. We're going to go back and watch film. We're going to see who has unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. We're going to see, you know, who's playing the game the right way, and if you're not, hey, here's your fine letter coming through. So I understand that piece. Now, in terms of you know, them switching out, I guess you could say the arbitrators or whoever's overseeing the appeals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think James Thrash, it makes sense, because now, like you're saying, is it a conflict of interest? Because you got Derek Brooks on one side, who's a Tampa Bay guy, and then you got John Runyon, whose son is playing this weekend.
Starting.
Ultimately, you put a guy like James Thrash, who I think is very, very fair. I think Thrash is very, very fair. Anytime I do an appeal with him, I always feel confident about him hearing us out. So I think they did the right thing there by making Thrash the guy to make the decision.
Okay, I agree. I think it was fair. You put him. He has no bias to either side.
There you go.
I had no bias to either side. I just know when Mike Evans saw that appeal got denied, the first thing I thought about was this.
Yeah, okay. Whatever. Fuck this bullshit.
Makes sense, man. No, I mean, I think everybody knew that Mike was gonna get that suspension regardless of the situation. It was too big of a moment. All eyes are on the Buccaneers and the Saints. You got this big thing that breaks out. So it's not a surprise to me. Even when it came down before they did the appeals process, I knew he was going to get suspended.
One more thing before that we wrap up about this post game to the Saints. What do you think about this after the game?
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see it?
No.
It was Tom Brady and Odell Beckham giving an embrace on the field, a long embrace. What do you think that conversation entailed?
You never know. You never know.
Odell has already expressed he wants to play with Tom Brady. He said that last year before going with the Rams. What do you think, Ron?
I don't think Odell knows who he wants to play with. I mean, he was in LA. I was in LA 2 weeks ago. That same energy. They're still keeping his locker in the Rams locker room, which is very weird to me because you're not under contract. But I think that the thought process there is that, hey, you know what? He's going to come back to the Rams and make a play. Now, in terms of Tom, Tom's the GOAT, man. Tom calls Odell and say, hey, Odell, we want you to come over here and get on with us. Then I'm pretty sure Odell will look at that and say, okay, hey, another opportunity to win a ring, and potentially another opportunity to play with Tom before he retires. So to get an opportunity to play with him before he retires, I think that it's a possibility, but you never know, man.
No, you don't. I woke up in this morning. I don't know if you saw my tweet. I just had the strangest feeling that Sean Murphy-Bunty is part of trade talks. No rumors or anything. I just had the strangest feeling. So I felt like I had to put it out in space because he's been quiet and nobody's thinking about it. So I don't know why. I've already said that Miller was probably going to be some type of part of a trade, especially if he doesn't show up in these games where they actually need him to play. And there's people that need wide receivers right now. I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys and possibly open up that slot and move in Odell Beckham in that place. Who knows? It's all speculation. There's no truth to none of that.
But how far do you think Odell's off from being ready to play?
I mean, when he's healthy.
Are we talking deep in the season? Are we talking November? Are we talking December?
Yeah, that's the other part. I really don't know where he's at with his rehab. But you got Julio Jones that's dealing with a knee injury after that big catch. Obviously, Mike's going to have some struggles with his hamstring. You got Godwin. It's like, I know you add another post-injury guy to your wide receiver core, but if you can get them all healthy at one point, it's going to be pretty hard to stop.
It's going to be very hard to stop. So I think that they're in a great position in terms of, having guys that can step in right now. But I think the biggest thing here is kind of what I said earlier in the conversation, their ability to run the ball.
Mm-hmm. That's big. And they haven't done that in a while.
They haven't done that. Not like this.
Nope, not in a while.
Not like this, where he's smacking you in the mouth. So I think that, just by them having that run game that's really working, it's really clicking right now. I definitely think having those 2s and 3s, and even going as far as your 4th receiver on the depth chart, get an opportunity to get those reps now while those other guys are getting healthy. At the right time, everything comes together. You're running the ball well. Now you got your starting receiver group back. Hey, if Odell's there and he's healthy, they might make a play. Might make a play. So I wouldn't argue against it.
I would agree that they need to game plan more with the tight ends with Keith and Otten that they just drafted. They've been little to no effect in the passing game. I know if I'm playing defense and you got those guys out there and you don't even look their way, I'm going to tend to shy away from that and grab the guys that I know you want to throw the ball to because I know you're not even looking their way. I mean, at some point, these guys are going to have to make a play on this team because each person eligible pass catcher is worth 20% of the play. Now, if you're only operating at 50 to 75% of your offense, it's going to come to light at some point.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that they're doing that purposely?
That's the thing about football. It's a chess game.
There you go. We're not going to – here's the thing. We can show you everything right now. Okay, we're in week 2, we're in week 3. We can show you everything right now. And that way, later on in the season, you can game plan for X, Y, and Z. But if we don't show you everything, if we don't show our whole hand, and then we surprise you with something that you didn't think we were going to do because we haven't shown it all year, I think that's a very smart strategy if that's what they're doing. Now, if Brady's not getting the ball to them because he just simply either doesn't trust them or the route concepts or who the ball is designed to go to on certain plays, If he's just not delivering the ball to those guys, then that's them not being on the same page. But I think to me, I think it's a chess game. I think that's what's going on.
Okay, I could definitely see that. And speaking of your home guys, Levante is definitely these past 2 games has shown up. He's had that what I posted, that big pass breakup in coverage against the Cowboys, since people want to put out that Devin White and Levante David lack pass coveraging skills. That is shown that's not true, at least thus far in 2 weeks. And then Levante being able to get a sack in that game as well. You said earlier this year that Levante is definitely locked in this year, coming post his injury after he's never had an injury like that. Have you spoke to him since these past 2 games to see where he's still feeling about all that?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I can say this about Levante, man. He's so focused right now. I haven't seen him like this in a while, where he's this focused. He's very detailed. He has his routine in terms of what he's doing, and just to see him, him making plays, but then also feeling like, hey, you know what? I left some plays on the field that I probably should have made. He's got a lot more in the tank, and I think that's what's so surprising about him and his ability to play this position and play it at a high level, is that he knows that, hey, I left plays on the field, even though I made some plays. I should have had this interception, or I should have had this tackle, or I should have done this. He's always going to critique himself to play better, and I think that's just the competitor in him, but it's also that desire to win, and win right now. So every week counts. That's his mentality, and he's focused, man. I'm telling you, I haven't seen him like this in a while.
Definitely. And I got his whole little punch out club thing going. Logan Ryan was the first to join the club this week with a big causing the fumble against Ingram on a run. Ingram giving up 2 critical fumbles 2 weeks in a row. Last week he gave one up to the Falcons, one went to the house, and then this week inside the red zone giving up one. So I know that's going to be a focal point. I know on defenses they're going to start punching the ball out on Ingram coming in these weeks, because he's showing he'll lay it on the ground.
Which is surprising, man, because I don't remember him fumbling a lot.
Never, not even at Bama.
Yeah, I don't remember him doing that a lot. But, with the Saints, man, they got to clean that up. I mean, you got costly turnovers by the quarterback. You got costly turnovers by the running back. I think they're still trying to figure it out, and they got to get rolling soon.
Yeah, because their depth at quarterback. Well, Andy Dalton's back there, so I mean, we'll see. I knew their offense. Yeah, I knew it was going to be different, because Sean Payton is showing that he can coach with any quarterback. Hell, he made Taysom Hill into a respectable quarterback in this league, and he obviously
somewhat respectable.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I try to give him
go that far.
He said, "Oh, wait a minute now." he said he got the man paid. That's all he could say. He got the man paid down there in New Orleans.
Absolutely.
He got him a gold grill now, and got him a chain, and got paid. So
that's crazy.
They say, Deshaun, you usually hear you put on the sunglasses, when they get paid, and pull out the gold chain, you know what I mean? And they put the grill. Get you with the grill in the mouth, you know what I'm saying?
That's funny, bro. That's funny.
But yeah, that's it on that. But let's move into some fun stuff here. What we talking about? I'm gonna save it for
let's talk about obviously they got a big game. Actually, you know what? We'll address that last. We'll come back to that last.
Because these two are juicy topics right here.
Yeah. We can go ahead and jump into those.
So let's start with the main ingredient right here, Mr. Brett Favre, Mr. Hall of Famer, Mr. Dungaree Jeans, Mr. American, taking money from the poorest of the poor in his home state. If I'm not mistaken, I believe his sister was arrested or having a meth lab as well. So those that know the Farve family, knowing that they tend to do stuff that's not good. Yeah. And the rumors are coming out that Farve has never been a good person, since him showing his manhood to the reporter out there in New York with the Jets. And then now this stuff. I mean, do you think they're trying to brush this under the rug? Shannon Sharp has been very vocal on that. And I always like listening to him on topics like this because he says exactly how he feels.
Yep.
And the last thing he said, he's like, Skip asked him, do you think he can never come back from that? He said, no, he'll be back from this. He said, when they like you, they'll find ways to put you back in the limelight. What do you think, Ron?
No, I totally agree with Shannon on that, man. You know, America forgives its babies. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, you know, when you got a guy like that who's a hometown hero, who's a hero in Green Bay, and you know he's won championships. You know he's a Hall of Fame guy. You know you can't really have blemishes like that on your record. So you think about guys like Brady, and you think of guys like LeBron, and how they carry themselves off the field and off the court. It's because of these types of situations where one or two incidents or you know anything regarding your family could kind of tear down your legacy. And if they want to tear down your legacy, they're gonna tear down your legacy. You know what I mean? Now, in terms of you know his actions, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
What do you say in this situation as an agent? Put yourself, if Brett Favre is your client, what kind of conversation are you having?
Well, I mean, I think that's hard. I think that's hard because at this point in time, Brett Favre is 50.
We'll just say in his 50s.
Okay, he's in his 50s. He hasn't played for a while. I'm not sure how much he talks to, you know, his agent or former agent, whatever, you know, whatever it is. But I think that the conversation is, you know, I know you messed up. And a lot of times, you know, you'll admit that you messed up when you get caught. You know what I mean? Like, I got caught red-handed. Here are the text messages, da-da-da-da-da. And when you have to ask yourself, like, is this going to come out prior to something actually taking place?
No, you're already
before
wrong.
you get into it, you already know you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I don't understand it from a monetary standpoint, you know, why he would go that far and take it from that fund. But you know, I think it kind of goes back to, you know, just the things you learn as a child, what's right and what's wrong, you know. And he's probably made enough money in his career where people probably say, hey, look, we can fundraise for this or do that. I'll put up the first $1 million, you know, whatever it is.
Or an investor or something.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, when you're dealing with players like that who are Hall of Fame guys, who are powerful, who are well respected in their communities, et cetera, you know, what's $1 million? A tax write-off, you slap your name on the building, it's a Brett Favre volleyball court, whatever. Right. You know, but for some reason in this position, his decision-making wasn't
the best.
It wasn't the best. But, you know, the biggest thing I have a problem with is it's not really being talked about enough.
No.
Because let's be honest here.
Go ahead. Say how you feel, Ron.
If it's us, okay, we getting thrown under the bus.
Losing endorsements. Nobody wants to call you. Everything's gone.
Everything's gone. You know, and now you're trying to figure out a way to repair your reputation, legacy. But in this position now, you know, I'm also watching the situation with the Celtics coach, who got in trouble. I guess you could say he got suspended for
fraternizing,
you know, but
in a consensual relationship.
Yeah, but they made it more about, hey, he's got a girlfriend, he's got a fiance, and that's kind of been the topic, and that's taken over the airwaves. That's being talked about more than anything. So now you got this situation over here where you're talking about, hey, the head coach who had an affair with, you know, someone on the staff, but then you got this guy over here who stole $6 million from the welfare fund that's not being talked about enough. So that's where it's kind of confusing. That's where it kind of rubs me the wrong way. And I just know that, you know, you got guys like Shannon Sharp and you got guys like Stephen A. Everybody, you know, they're going to talk about it.
Absolutely. And I'm right behind them. I'm like, yep, say everything you want to say on there. Well, within means, I don't want you to get yourself in trouble. Say what you can say within means.
Right.
But I think somebody put out you know, the memes always win on the internet. And the first thing they put out is Jameis Winston's crab legs got more publicity and media than Brett Favre stealing money from the poorest of the poor in Mississippi. Now, granted, you and I both know Jameis bit the bullet on that. He didn't steal them damn crab legs. That public's been giving away free food for the longest to athletes. Hence why he didn't ever even go up to the counter and order it. He just walked up and grabbed it and walked out. It's much easier to say, I forgot to pay than, oh, we always get free food from there. Now it's a whole huge investigation.
Yep.
Anybody with half a brain that knows that knows what that situation happened. But that got more people remember that, and they'll try to forget what Brett Favre just did and stole all that money from them poor people, and people are still not talking about it. They want to talk about what you just said, the Celtics situation, and what Stephen A. brilliantly said. He said, I can name several situations in the Celtics right now that aren't being talked about. He said, I don't bring it up because it's none of my damn business.
Exactly.
It's none of my damn. It's not news. It has nothing to do with sports. It's not affecting anything that I talk about. Y'all get caught up whatever it is. That's your business.
Right.
But to bring him out of countless others in your situation is terrible. And Steven's biggest point is like, why the hell do you even bring it up if you're not even gonna fire him? You're gonna suspend him for a year and then bring that out. If you bring that up and fire him, it makes sense. But you're gonna bring it out and then suspend him for a year. Makes no sense.
I agree, man. It definitely makes no sense. But there must be some type of I guess you could say measure that the team has in their code of conduct or this, that, and the other that warrants the suspension that they gave him. At the same time, I think that if the coach wasn't dating or engaged to a celebrity of this status, it may not have been as big. Let's just say it was, a normal Jane Doe or whatever. I think that has something to do with it as well, in terms of why it's getting so much coverage, like media coverage. But I mean, if he broke the code of conduct, then I understand the suspension.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I don't think it's worth not talking about this other situation where you had a major, just a major, I guess you can call it a theft that's going on, or that was going on. But I just think it can't be overlooked.
No, hell no, it can't be overlooked. That's crazy. Like,
didn't the governor of Mississippi have something to do with it too?
Correct. In the text messages, that's who he was messaging. Like he said, you got to be lower than the low to steal from those people that have nothing to build a damn volleyball that has absolutely nothing to do with anything. No value, not building, making anybody's life better, putting roofs over the head or putting food in their bellies.
Yeah.
To only do that because your daughter is playing volleyball over there. The only person benefiting is you and her. And it's terrible. And the fact that you're just trying to water it down with something else. That, hey, check this out. Like, was it the Wizard of Oz? Pay that man behind the curtain. Don't pay that man behind the curtain any mind. Pay him any mind. But that's what media does. And me here, I've always based myself on I don't ever want to be somebody that wants to get famous or get notoriety off of somebody else's misery. Now, if something stupid comes out, and I'm going to talk about it because it's already out. Yeah. But like conversations that we have and stuff like that, I don't ever want to be that kind of guy to bring that stuff out. And there's media people that'll sit there, in front of your face and talk to you like that, and then stab the knife so deep in your back as soon as something happens to build notoriety. And it's just crazy in this media game how things like that, when you want to fill narratives and build self-notoriety.
No, I agree with you there, man. I just think that I've been in my business and my industry for quite some time now, and I've seen guys that you feel like you have a relationship with, and you kind of give them, hey, here's a tidbit on this or a tidbit on that, or sometimes you're just having conversation, and instead of saying, hey, how do you feel about me putting this out, or just coming to you and doing it in a professional manner, so that there's some things that you have conversations about that you may not want out,
right?
Because you have a relationship. I've had a couple of guys. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I've had a couple situations in the past where Just dealing with media guys, and we'll have a conversation, and the next thing I know, oh, it's being reported. So I'm like, okay, well, now I know that when it's time to report something, who I won't call to get that out. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why burn the bridge when we're gonna, this is my line of business. I'm gonna continue to be here for years to come. So I get what you're saying. You're not trying to build your brand and what you're doing from a media standpoint on wrecking somebody else's story or running with something that you really don't have the okay from whoever's giving you the information. Break it. So I respect the way that you do things, man. That's why we've been doing this for last couple of years, and things come up. I got no problem coming to you and saying, hey, here's X, Y, and Z, because I trust you in terms of how you handle yourself in terms of your platform.
And thank you. And people say, well, that's the way to go. Everybody wants to be first to put out information, whether it be accurate or wrong or whatever. Everybody wants to be the first guy to put it out. So like whatever notoriety you get from that or whatever clout status you get, I would just call it clout. It's just, I don't know. When I started this game, I did not want to do that because I watched so many lives get ruined because of that. Not only now, like speaking of the Celtics situation, now you've put this girl, because information is going to come out later on, Steven said. Now her life is going to be changed. She's going to get threats from people. People are going to find out who she is, and will she get jobs later on or whatever? Because her name is going to be out there. So many lives get affected to get 5 minutes of fame to put a story out. So
crazy, bro. That's crazy. I didn't even think about it that deep, but now that you mentioned that, that's exactly what's going to happen.
She can't be on social media for a while till the heat's off. And like we just said, that's what's going on right now to water down the Brett Farve situation. So this girl's going to get called every name in the book, home wrecker, whatever they're going to call her. That's among nice things I just said. But that's just the nature of this beast. It's a savage.
Man. You're right.
It's savage. So I know you tell your athletes there you got to fly low, man, and I know they're young men and you want to live your life, but man, it's just these people you can't trust out here. You cannot trust some of these people because they're not there with you when the shit hits the fan.
It hits the fan. Yeah. I mean, that's why you have some guys that operate in a certain space and they try to do the best that they can, especially when you're a high profile guy. When you have, I take a guy like Russell Wilson, who's married to Sierra. And the things that he probably has to deal with from a media standpoint, from a scrutiny standpoint, but the way he conducts himself as a pro and as a businessman, I have ultimate respect for that young man because he's a black quarterback, and he's married to a celebrity, and a lot of times we get broken down in this business. And the way he's handled his business so far, he's a multi-millionaire, but he conducts himself in a manner where he doesn't allow his brand to be affected or his family.
Correct.
So to me, I have, that for me, that would be like the poster child. I will say to a young man, like, hey, listen, here's the blueprint in terms of how you want to do things in a position like you're in. You want to operate in a certain way. You want to think in a certain way. You want to move in a certain way so that your family's not affected and your brand is not affected. So, and then also your legacy.
Yep.
So,
Russell had his own stuff to deal with too, because her baby father is Future as well, and the situation between that, they haven't been fighting that I know of. If they do, they keep it amongst themselves. If they've talked trash to each other, I'm sure there's some type of animosity. I know they were at some point they were trying to pass on that Future was like a deadbeat dad, and he had to come out and defend himself. He's like, whoa, I've been taking care of my kids. He's like if Russ, he's like a Pro Bowl, probably Hall of Famer quarterback, can teach my son stuff that I can't teach him. Why wouldn't I allow that to happen? I can't teach him some things that Russ can teach him. But they were trying to put the light on like Future wasn't around for his kid, and that was the case. But otherwise than that, there's been nothing with Russell Wilson, and I'm sure there's been people that's been trying, but the way he's handled his business, you're right. It's like the blueprint, just like LeBron James. It's the same thing.
So, Mike, you hit it right on the head,
Rolling on. Green Bay versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lane injuries. I mean, honestly, even with Mike Evans out, these two teams are about as even as I can think of. And the reason for that is because Green Bay has no wide receivers. Let's just put that out there. They have no wide receivers. No disrespect to the guys on the roster. There's just, you haven't shown anything for me to say that you have a wide receiver one on that team as of right now. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I don't think so. So they're all their eggs are in the basket on their two running backs, Jones and AJ Dillon. The Bucks are hurting at wide out. Not sure what Julio Jones' status is. Russell Gage is still injured. And as we spoke earlier, you got unproven wide receivers in Scotty Miller and Brashard Perriman that some will say that don't equal one whole wide receiver together. So now with all those together and the offensive lineman, Packers have both tackles out. I believe that's still there. And the Bucks just have lost Donovan Smith, their backup Wells, and have just picked up guys off of practice squads. What do you think, is going to happen in this matchup? What's the strengths? What's the weaknesses? What do you think, Ron?
Can you hear me okay, Blake?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
Okay. It's kind of chopping in and out. I honestly think, man, like you said, I think this is one of those matchups where you do have two teams that have hit the injury bug already at the beginning of the year. I think that it's going to come down to the running game on both ends. I think that between, like you said, I think, not having a number one receiver, I think Devontae Adams, you can tell his presence is missed. But I think that when you have two guys like a Aaron Rodgers and like a Tom Brady, both of those guys are going to be looking to outdo each other. It's one of those big games, regardless of who the receivers are. Like, hey, you better come to play because this is one of those games where this could be the last time Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers go up against each other ever. So you better believe, whoever is out there at receiver, whoever the pass catchers are, they, those guys are going to come with it. But I think, honestly, it's going to come down to the defense, and I think it's going to come down to running the ball. Who can run the ball better?
And I think that was always Matt LaFleur's strategy coming into Green Bay. I think he wanted to become a running team. Luckily, they found gem in the rough with Jones coming up. I don't think anybody expected Jones to come out and perform the way he did. Got his second contract and is still performing at an expert high level. AJ Dillon fell in our lap. A guy I followed for a freshman at Boston College. Didn't know if he was going to be a fullback. Kind of looked like Florida State's old Greg Jones and bigger backs like that. And he's come out to proving that he can keep his weight under control and play at a high level. So now you got this dual back, big guy and a smaller guy, and they're really run heavy. And I think they still throw to their tight ends a bunch. But the Bucs secondary is going to be really good. So it's going to be interesting to see where Aaron Rodgers is going to find people open. And the pass rush has been getting after people. I think Devin said their focus is 30 turnovers at the end of the season, much like the Bucs did back in 2001, 2002 season when they won the Super Bowl. I think they set a margin high for defensive turnovers. Do you think Green Bay's passing attack is enough to get past Tampa Bay's secondary?
I think it's got a lot of play action. I think you got to get those guys coming up, biting on the run, kind of be able to take your shots. I just don't know from a receiver standpoint with the Packers, who's your vertical threats? I know you got Randall Cobb. You got the kid that was drafted this year from, I think it was North Dakota, South Dakota State. Yep. I think you got Lazard, who's there. But I'm not sure who's your guy that's actually stretching the field that might be able to take the top.
Oh, Sammy Watkins, I believe.
Okay, that's right. Sammy is there.
Yeah.
Sammy is there. Okay. I just don't know how much of a factor he's going to be, but I think everything is going to be based off of the run. I think it's going to be your run game. I think it's going to be your screen game. Who can make a guy miss, move the chains. If we're in field goal range, we're knocking down those field goals. But I think it's going to really be, a run game, a run-oriented game with good defense. That's my opinion.
And that's Todd Bowles' strength in his defense is stopping the run. And like you said, Aaron's going to have to try to get people's out of place and find open slots. I think this is a good game for Devin White and Levante David to establish their dominance, because I think there's going to be a lot of mid-range passes because, like you said, I don't think they have a huge vertical threat. Aaron will take his shots, but I think this is a mid-range passing game to a run-heavy game.
Couldn't have said it any better.
What do you think the score is going to end up being like? Do you think it's going to be under 40 or over 40? Total.
Okay. Total. Yeah. Okay. I was.
My bad.
Like, is it gonna be 42 to 40? I think it's gonna be 38, a 38-35 type of game.
Okay.
38-35. I think it's gonna be a close game.
It's a lot of points.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a close game. I think you're gonna see a little bit more than expected from the quarterbacks, like we talked about. But I think it's going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be a lot of smash mouth football. But I also think that these guys are going to be able to get to the end zone. I think there's going to be a lot of potential field goals. It's going to be great weather down there, so you don't have to worry about the rain or any of that. So, well, hopefully you don't. Right. But,
it's Florida.
Yeah, it is Florida. So. I think it's going to be like a 38-35 or a 28-31 type of situation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even with the wide receiver situation, Tampa should have put up 30-plus points against Dallas, which they ended up in a lot of field goals in that game. That score could have got a lot worse in that game. Could at least they could have minimum 30 points in that game. Then you come to the Saints. And then you come to the Saints, great defense, which I kind of figured it was going to be a low-scoring game. You're right. These two have a tendency to air it out. Green Bay secondary is not that good, not that great. I'm thinking around that. I'm thinking around like a 28-20, something like that, somewhere around there. I don't know if they reached the 30 marker, but definitely in the high 20s.
High 20s.
Thinking.
Okay, we can go with that.
But I think everybody's going to be well entertained in this game. It's going to be boring a little bit. It's going to be a lot of runs. It's going to be a lot of old school smash mouth football in this game. I really don't expect to see a whole lot of four wide situations. I really don't. I mean, will they come out in it? I don't think so, especially with the way the Bucs are playing defense and getting after the quarterback, and the way Green Bay has lackluster at offensive line on both sides for the Bucs too, with the offensive lineman being down and young. I don't expect to see a whole lot of four wides. I expect this, like you said, a lot of smash mouth, 21 personnel and those guys out there and getting mid-range passes. Brady's going to take his shots, but it should be a very well mixed game, in my opinion.
Definitely, I think you got to keep them honest. I think you got to take your shots just to kind of keep those linebackers or stacking the box or bringing that extra guy in. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's going to be a good one.
Definitely. I definitely agree so too. Ron, do you got anything you want to add on here? What's going on in the world of Agency One? I know you guys got Denzel Perryman. You guys are working on that contract still. As we talked on, off air, I think they're trying to hold out and wait for some leverage pull to get DP contract talks down.
I think the biggest thing here with Denzel, and I think that the team was, kind of hesitant in terms of doing a lucrative, let's just call it a lucrative multi-year deal, is his ability to be available. And when I say available, right now, he's down. He's been injured since the first game. So you're going into week 3. He'll be a scratch for week 3. He's a leader of that defense, but if he's not on the field, how much value does he have?
True.
And I think that was kind of the thing with the Raiders, because even before last season, Denzel had a hell of a season last year. Don't get me wrong. He had a hell of a season, Pro Bowl season, best I've seen him play since he's been in the NFL. But prior to that, he had a history of injuries.
He said it himself. He said, "I don't want my name being affiliated with injury followed behind it."
Correct. So, You know he has the ability to be an every down backer. You know he has the ability when he's healthy to, cause havoc. You got to know where he is. Running backs, receivers, you got to be able to know, you're looking for 5-2 on the field because you're going to probably get smacked if he's in that area. But I think from a general manager, from a team standpoint, I think they're looking at it saying, hey, let's see what we can get from him for the first 5 games of the season. Okay. If he can come out and do what he does and he can stay healthy, then you got no problem with taking care of him. Okay. But he hadn't been healthy the first 3 games of the season. So it's like it's a gamble. It's a gamble. Last year when he came in, he said, I'm going to bet on myself, do X, Y, and Z. Played a great season. Regime change. New head coach, new GM, new linebacker coach, new system, et cetera, et cetera. So it didn't necessarily go in the favor of, hey, if they kept their same coach, they kept the same GM, this deal would have probably gotten done right after the season was over, and we probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
Correct.
But you got a new regime, you got a new defensive coordinator, totally different defense. He's a defensive back heavy coordinator, and I think when you're dealing with the passing league that we have now, 70 to 75% of the snaps are going to be passing.
And in that division, you got all them quarterbacks.
I mean, you're facing. You got Herbert 1 week. You got
Mahomes.
You got Mahomes. You got
Carr, and
you got Russell.
Yep.
Okay, so we know that they're gonna, teams are gonna be able to air the ball out because of the weapons that they have. But at the end of the day, I think when Denzel is healthy and he can do what Denzel does, he's one of the best linebackers in the league. But when he's not healthy and you can't get anything from him, what value do you really have? So right now, the game plan is try to get him back by next week.
Cool.
Try to get him as healthy. He's rehabbing 4 or 5 times a day on that ankle, just trying to get that ankle back.
Right.
And I'm hoping to have him back out there next week, and he can kind of pick up, get ready to go, and finish out the season strong. And then maybe during that time, while the season's going on, maybe we kind of figure out the contract situation.
Did he say that he's trying to get ready to go next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not like when I say next week, not this Sunday, but next Sunday.
Next Sunday. Yeah. Next Sunday. I think they play Houston next week.
Okay.
In Vegas. But I mean his focus right now is get healthy. Help my team. We're 0-2 right now. Let me just get back. Let me play at a high level,
right,
and get this thing back on track.
Definitely, because we definitely want to see this man get that payday, so I can get my chain on like him. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't want to pull out his chain. Tell him, DP, I got my chain out for you,
hey,
ready for you to get paid.
I'm gonna let him know too.
and as I told you before, get that man a private chef because his cooking skills is kind of questionable. Not sure if you saw that live. You need to watch that live with him cooking. It's pretty hilarious.
No, I saw it. He actually has a chef. But I think he wanted to try to do some things on his own and kind of get the audience's feedback and their opinion. But cooking ain't for everybody, bro. Cooking ain't for everybody.
Yeah, ramen noodles. Just stick to it, DP. Stick to the ramen noodles.
There you go.
You can't ever make too much money to eat ramen noodles.
Agreed.
Ron, we have 50-minute marker. It's always fun having you. I know you're busy, and around this time, where we at? What time we looking at? We are around 1 o'clock. Oh, I know you're getting your phone calls coming in soon.
Oh yeah, they're coming in. That's probably why the service was bad because I got the calls are coming in at the same time. So
his phone. This is pretty good because his phone's usually going off the hook, and when you see a screen go black, I already know what it is. It's a phone call coming in. I already know what it is. It's a phone call coming in. So we're gonna get you out of here, Ron.
Hey man,
any final words on anything?
No, absolutely, man. Every time I come on, man, I always feel great to have a conversation with you and everything, man. So keep doing a great job. And like I said, you can catch me on Instagram at Agent Butler 1. You can catch Agency 1 Athlete Management Group at Agency One Sports Group on Instagram. And I'm real frequent in terms of responding and putting out different content and everything. So if you got any questions for me, you can reach me there.
And you can also play him in Madden. Him and Jeff Allen, they go at it. So.
Hey, listen. Jeff Allen know what time it is. He know what time it is. We had to go ahead and switch to 2K because we know what time it is.
See, so it's a proven fact. Just because you're good on the gridiron doesn't mean you're good at the sticks. So
there you go.
I'm Blake Anthony. This is Ron Butler, and we'll end this as we always do. You're the master of everything. What you do with your life, what you do with it, is up to you. Thank you, guys. God bless, and as always, fire those cannons.
Appreciate you, my man.